Welcome back to Burnout Banter. We're glad you're here as we continue season 3 with a topic that shows up again and again in burnout recovery conversations, but probably not in the way you're thinking. When most people hear get active, they think they're supposed to hit the gym, go for a run, or commit to some kind of fitness routine. But for folks in the thick of burnout, even that sounds exhausting. In today's episode, we're taking a broader and more realistic look at how activity of any kind can be a lifeline when you're burned out. We talk about 5 types of activity: movement, creativity, connection, small wins, and reflection that can all help you disrupt the freeze response, boost your energy, and help you feel like yourself again. Whether you're someone who loves the gym or someone who rolls their eyes every time someone says, just go for a walk, this episode is for you. Because recovery doesn't start with intensity, it starts with intention. Hi, everybody. My name's Jeff,
And I'm Rachelle.
and this is Burnout Banter. Before we jump in, make sure you subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen so you never miss an episode of the banter.
I'm
So,
so
Rachelle,
excited for this topic.
yeah,
Yes.
I was thinking of you when I read the roll my eyes at just go for a walk. Not that you're not active, but I
I
don't know
walked
how
30
often you
miles
go for
this
walks.
weekend. Thank you very much. I get real frustrated when someone's like, that's all it takes. You just go for a walk and it's a big mental health boost. I'm like, that takes a lot of energy. I have to like put on the shoes and get the dogs ready. And if I don't take the dogs, then I have to get the dogs settled before I go. And it's an ordeal to leave the house, Jeff.
Okay. I hear that. We have, depending on how hot it is, one dog handles it really well and the other one handles it very poorly. So that always factors into our walkability as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Neither of my pups is warm weather prepared. They're definitely winter dogs. So our walkies are limited to a very small period of time during the
Yeah.
year.
You could do evenings, I guess. It gets usually pretty nice at night, but
Maybe. I don't know. It's still pretty warm here. But
yeah.
anyway,
So when we talk about movement, what do you think of? Like what comes to mind?
I think of the traditional like gym, Pilates, yoga, maybe like dance, because that's a big thing in my family. But it's like a structured physical activity, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And when you're burned out, how easy is that for you to want to do one of those things?
Oh, it's impossible. The structure, I think, is what makes it so intimidating
Yeah.
when I'm out. I just can't handle like going to a class for an hour.
Yeah, I think when we're burned out, our to-do list seems really long and adding more stuff to it. I think, in fact, when I'm burned out, it's a lot easier to take things off of the to-do list, which is why movement is one of the first things that gets cut. And it's a lot
Yeah,
easier to just sit here at your desk and try to plow through it.
exactly. Yeah, it's just too much. And then like driving there or getting ready, if you do like a home workout, it adds up and it takes a big chunk out of your day.
Yeah. So what do you think the purpose of movement is?
I mean, I know physically movement is good for your body. We don't want to be stagnant. It is a healthy thing. But mentally, it feels like it's a disruptor, right? Like you get stuck in cycles or you have, whether you're stuck in burnout or anxiety or whatever it is, movement seems to be a good solution for breaking that and distracting you from it.
Yeah, I would agree.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think too, like we spend a lot of time, most of us, sitting in front of a desk or sitting in front of a computer, and even just like changing your environment can help instead of just like sitting in your normal place when it
Yes.
comes to trying to break that cycle.
I
Or that,
am
yeah,
extremely nomadic to
are
the point where my team comments on it every single time I log on to a meeting. And they're like, "Where are you today, Rochelle?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just in a different part of my house, like patio, kitchen, desk, coffee shop, you know." I can't physically stay at my desk for too long. It just, I have to be moving around.
I think for me, it's harder because a lot of times I need a bigger monitor than my laptop provides. So it is really easy to just sit at my desk with my four monitors and just have everything laid out
Work.
the way that I like. He has three monitors and a laptop.
My goodness. I do have a monitor,
You didn't know
but
I run NASA from my home office, Rochelle?
yeah, we got to talk about this stuff. What kind of engineering is happening over there?
Exactly. Yeah, so we're essentially trying to shift our energy, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental. That's the whole point of movement. But I do think it gets, whenever somebody says like just move or just break that cycle, right? I think we tend to go to the physical side of it only. So that's part of why I wanted to talk about this today was, yes, physical exercise and movement is extremely important for us as we sit here for far too long during our days. But I think there's other things that we can do if we are burned out that may not be quite so overwhelming.
I'm excited to hear those because I know when I get burned out, I need like the babiest of baby steps to get me back into the healthy lifestyle that I'm used to and I strive for. And I have periods of like doing really well, and then I get fried, and it's so hard to get back to. I feel like Superwoman. Like, who is that girl who is doing all of those things? Because it's not me. It's not burnt out me.
Oh,
It was impossible.
so what we're essentially trying to do through movement is signal to our nervous system that we're okay and that we're not, in fact, stuck, which we may feel stuck, but we're not stuck.
We definitely feel stuck.
So we want to show ourselves that something can change. And by seeing that something can change, then we can change more.
Okay. So
So
how do we do that?
exercise feels like too much right now.
Okay.
You're listening to this, it's okay. We're going to give you some other things that you can do to try to help with that. So, like I
So
said
what's
earlier,
giving you
huh?
permission not to go to the gym yet? You're gonna
Yeah,
get there.
you'll get there. So as I mentioned earlier, there are five types of activity that can help with recovery from burnout. And I don't know if I should have put number one as physical activity based on everything I just said, but I sure did.
Low hanging fruit. Let's just knock it out. Address the elephant in the room, whatever cliche you want to use.
So physical activity, right? We do tend to think of like running, yoga, walking, hiking. These activities are good for us because it boosts our move, it improves our energy, and it reduces the cortisol that builds up in our system. That kind of stuck inertia
Right.
or lack of inertia.
If we could like break that down into something smaller, like you don't have to go to a full yoga class. Maybe take a downward dog in the morning. There's one
Yeah,
yoga, 30
that's,
seconds.
that's what I was gonna say. I've been doing some physical therapy because as my doctor told me, have been active my whole life, and my body is breaking down as I age. So I have a disc in my back that is the separation starting to decrease, and it causes a little bit of a pinch nerve. So numbness goes down my leg,
My
mostly when
God.
I'm standing or slow walking. But what I've been learning through physical therapy is to like sit at my desk and do some stretches, like if I'm in a meeting or, just to kind of break that up and like put my leg out and do a little stretching. So yeah, it doesn't have to be this big activity that we typically think of. Even that bit of movement can help us break the cycle of just sitting in our chair or feeling stuck in our chair.
Desk stretches are seriously helpful. I have a physical therapist in the family, and she constantly tells me because I'm unbalanced. One side of my body is, I don't want to say stretchier than the other, but it is one side of my body hurts and the other doesn't. And it's because I slouch a particular way in my chair. And so she constantly reminds me, like, set a timer on your phone once an hour, switch to the other side, slouch the other way. And make sure you're stretching. Put your arms up. You can like hold a beach ball. So you're like creating a cave almost, like hollowing out your stomach, and then you arch your back. And that like stretches the muscles that tend to cramp up when we are hunched over our computers and cause a lot of tension and headaches. So I do that a lot and it really has helped. It's like physical
Yeah.
therapists, what they're talking about.
Yeah, they sure do. I don't have the problem of being more limber on one side versus the other. I'm just equally unflexible on both sides.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a limber thing or just one side is broken and never recovered and the other side feels comparatively better.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to fix it. But
But even just like getting up and go stand outside in the sun for like 5 minutes, right?
yes,
Makes a huge difference on our mood. Or if it's raining, right? Like my daughter loves to go stand in the rain. So, or
I'm
the
with your
wind. She loves the
daughter.
wind. I'm like, you're crazy for loving the wind. The
Okay, that
least
one, no.
ever, but she loves the wind. So when it's super windy, she'll go experience it. And it does help break that cycle.
Good for her on the wind side because it rains so rarely in New Mexico. Will go drop whatever I'm doing and sit on my patio to enjoy it because it is such an experience. But
Yes,
also
you are.
love putting the ball for the dogs because they're exercising. But I've at least gotten up. It's
Yeah.
very low effort on my part, but it is that change.
But even that, right? Like you're minimizing the effort when it is a break from what you're doing.
Yeah, it is a change of location, change of scenery, change of pace. Definitely throwing a
I
ball
think
versus
that's,
typing on my computer.
yeah, that's sometimes where we can be our worst enemy, right? Is we minimize, oh,
Yeah.
well, it's not, I didn't go for a run. I just went for a walk. Like it's all good.
Yeah.
I just went for a walk. Well, just, how many days do we take a break and go for a walk? It's not a just, it's a good thing.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I guess the takeaway about physical activity is, you don't have to go outside and run a marathon. That's not what we're talking about to break the feeling of stuck. It's just moving your body in a way that feels good and doable for you, depending on where you're at.
I like it. That makes physical activity so much easier. Don't like take the pressure away and just move.
I think what's interesting as I get older too, I tend to have a different definition of what physical activity is. And probably this older, wiser version of physical activity would have served me well as a younger person,
We learn through experience. What is the next type of activity?
So the next one is creative activity. So
Oh,
what sort of creative activities do you do?
I have an aspirational craft closet that's got lots of paints and markers and pens and charcoals and it's a whole art store in there because I just collect art stuff. So that's
And
what I do.
why is it aspirational?
Because
I
I
think
never
it's funny that
set
you use
aside
that.
time for it. It's on me. I just collect these things and then I'm like, oh, it's so much effort to put out all of my paints and the brushes and to get the canvas prepped and but I do need to set aside that time for it because it's very enjoyable to
Yeah.
just sit and paint.
Do you think there's a way that you could make it so it doesn't seem like it's overwhelming to do something like that for yourself?
I'm trying to establish a space where everything can just stay set up. So I don't have to like worry about putting things away. I haven't gotten to that point, but I have gotten to the point where everything goes in one drawer and I can move that drawer to like the table where I currently work on and then just put the drawer back. So I have started this journey of making it less like intensive to prep and clean up because that's really like the creating part is great, but it's the prep and the cleanup that becomes so daunting and so overwhelming that I'm like, I don't want to deal with that, especially when I'm burnt out. Like,
And I think a key in order to help the creative activity move you out of burnout is that it starts to exercise a different part of your brain. So I do want to point out that if you spend a lot of time being like super creative as part of your job, which a lot of y'all marketers are very creative in what you do, then it's how do you exercise the other part of your brain too, right? So you don't get stuck in one side versus the other.
Interesting. I would say that it's a different type of creativity, right? I mean, I guess if you're
Yeah, I
painting all
mean,
every
yeah,
day,
we
but
it depends on how you define creativity, right? Because
yeah,
we joke that engineers aren't creative, but they really are because
people are.
we're solving solutions that don't exist or that, there's a problem that we need to figure out how to work our way through. So that's creative too. It's just, I think it's a different type of creativity, a little more
Yeah,
logical.
a more, yeah, I was gonna say like structured but logical creativity for some reason sounds like they don't go together, but they do.
So like my creative activity is like of doing a puzzle or
Um,
like coloring, color by number or paint by number. So I'm a little less like free flow and a
You're
little
very
structured
structured.
in my creativity, but
I do love a good coloring book. I have noticed that if I'm sitting on a webinar and I really need to pay attention, I can't unless my hands are busy. So I either have to take notes by hand, I can't just type them in a document, or I will get distracted and start doing something else.
yeah,
Or I pull out my coloring book and I color. And for some reason, there's like it makes it much easier to focus on what is being said.
yeah.
So something to be said for that too.
So I think our creativity, our creative activities help us kind of rediscover our identity outside of whatever it is that's burning us out.
I like that. Okay.
So the third one we've somewhat talked about in a previous episode, I think in season one, but it's social activity, which depending on your introversion or extroversion, may be more overwhelming than not. But again, right, it's taking the social activity and putting it in a form that serves you. So
Right.
if you are an introvert, maybe it's a one-on-one activity. So again, I say social activity, and my mind immediately goes to let's go to a networking event. And then I'm like, ugh, I don't want to. And that's just going to burn me out more. But it's, phone a friend, have a conversation for 20 minutes during the day.
You said social activity, and I immediately thought my small friend groups, there's like three of us, four of us, have a craft night once a week. And it is the first thing to go, unfortunately, because we plan it for Monday, which is just a difficult day in general, but it's the only day we're all free. But yeah, it gets cut very quickly when we're all tired and burnt out. But it's very energizing. Like we have talked about this in past episodes, but I often have to convince myself to do the just go for 5 minutes and then you can go home. And then I get there and I'm like, this is great. I miss these people. I
Just what I
enjoy
need.
their company. Like I like the conversation, crafting is nice, low stakes. And then I go home and I feel like so much better.
Yeah. Another thing that I thought was interesting when you think of social activities would be volunteering somewhere.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And again, helps you feel like you're doing something good too.
Yeah.
Or a shared hobby if you like to go for a walk with somebody else, right? So you're doing it with another person. And the idea behind doing things socially is we're reintroducing like safe, manageable connection when burnout wants you to isolate and hide.
I think the manageable is the key word in that. Like you
Yeah.
said, networking for an introvert is a social activity, but not the one you want when you're burnt out.
Yeah.
But maybe if you're an extrovert, that's what you need
Yeah, it
is
could be. Absolutely.
stimulation. So I like it.
Yeah, and
What's
the socialization, releases oxytocin in our brains. So that's a positive thing when we're feeling burned out.
we do like that? Anything to combat the cortisol.
Yeah. So the next kind is being productive or organizing, which I love this one.
This one feels counter, like you're burnt out, and yet productive activity is going to be helpful. So I'm really curious.
Well, so last weekend organized, like I pulled stuff out of my garage, cleaned it out, and organized my garage, right? Which has nothing to do with like what I might be burned out around. But it's one of those things that kind of bugs you when you are burned out that you are struggling to get to. Um,
Yeah.
Cleaning my bathroom that I have been meaning to clean for weeks helps me feel good. So I don't think it's like, okay, I'm going to double down and be productive in what's burning me out. It's going and finding something else that can make you feel good about what you accomplished.
Okay. Admittedly, when I read the outline, I did read the rest of it. But when I got to that headline, I went, oh dear. But I agree. I agree. I often start my weekend with a like low effort chore. That way I can like check it off and feel like, awesome, I did a thing. And if I get nothing else done this weekend, like it's okay because I did that one thing. And then I gradually try to get to bigger and bigger things. I have not tackled my garage. That is a 2 weekend endeavor. We're gonna wait until we're fully human for that one. But the laundry room, tackled the
Yeah,
laundry.
yeah.
Feel great.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I did that is anytime I have to walk out there in my bare feet, and it's like got sand and dirt from the winter in there. It bugs me every time I walk out there. So, but again, it's been bugging me for months, and I just finally got around to it. But it does, now when I walk out into the garage, I'm like, oh, this feels kind of nice.
Right? You also have making a list on here, which I also love because I tend to start my day, well, not my day. I tend to start my week and my weekend with a list. Monday, I sip my tea in the morning. I look at what's on my calendar, what I have to get done, my tasks, and I make a list. Like I already have my little AI assistant that tells me what I'm doing, but I kind of make like a mental priority list and pare it down. Like these are my AI thinks that I am super productive and will get through all of these things. I do a realistic list. It's like if I only get through these 3 things this week, I will feel good.
Yeah, I
And
think
just
that's what's really
actively
important.
do that is nice.
The list can become really overwhelming the more we add to it. But I think if we create the list from the perspective of I want to get stuff out of my head and I want to
Yes.
write it down somewhere that's safe so I can stop thinking about it. And then I'm going to pick one thing to get done. And that's all I'm going to focus on is just finish the first thing. And then if
Right.
I can like come back to myself and be like, okay, that felt pretty good. I want to tackle the next thing. Or, wow, that did not feel good at all. And I'm done accomplishing things for right now.
Sorry. I just paused because that was very real.
Yeah.
That did not feel good and I'm done. Definitely had those days.
Yep, I agree. So what we're trying to do is provide clarity and then provide a little bit of progress against the mental fatigue and chaos that's showing up when we're burned out.
Right. There are
And it
so many like small wins from those productive or organizational acts to help with that.
Yeah, pick something that you like to do. I have one coaching client who loves cleaning the bathroom. And for me, that's not a love.
No.
Feel good when I get it done, but I don't love doing it. But he loves doing it. And it's like, great, if you love it, have at it. If that is going to help break the inner, the stuckness, then go do it. So it depends on what you like to do.
Your coaching client is, are they an alien? Can they come clean my bathroom? I hate that. I hate that chore. I actually strongly dislike most chores though.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. But I like the
Get
outside
those.
ones. I'll do the outside ones all the time.
Yeah.
The inside
Be like
chores.
gardening or something too, right? Or
Yeah,
if you like that, like being in nature. Mowing.
exactly. I'll,
I
I'll mow the grass every day if I
I was
need
just
to.
talking to another client who has found that mowing the grass is he used to hate it. Now it's become this like quiet time where he can slow down and think and just kind of pull out of whatever it was that had he had going on in his head.
Exactly. I like that. I like, you know, weeding is oddly cathartic, like, especially if you're angry and you're just ripping things out of the ground. It's great. So, yeah,
See, and I disagree on that one because I have so many where I live. It's just this never-ending thing. So weeding has where I used to love it because I could get my little spray bottle out and go spray a few weeds and everything looked nice. Now it's a half day of spraying weeds and I don't do it very often.
that's fair. That's fair. I think we have one more activity.
Ew.
Count. Okay, I can count. Yay.
Yeah, the last one is being reflective or some mindfulness activities, and I can see everybody rolling their eyes just as I said that. because this is the thing that gets talked about the most,
It's the woo-woo stuff.
the woo-woo stuff. So journaling, meditating, taking a slow, thoughtful walk, therapy or coaching, things that just kind of help you slow down.
These get talked about for a reason, though. They are effective.
Yes.
No, it's
They
not like
do
we're
actually
telling
help.
you to go like take a bubble bath and drink tea and you're magically going to be fixed. But like you said, a safe space to like get things down on paper in list form, like a safe space to get thoughts and emotions and feelings around what's going on down somewhere is very helpful for burnout.
Yeah.
So,
And if you can get to the point of gratitude, right, then you start to see that maybe everything's not working against you and some things actually are working for you. And I think that even just that little shift can, the world is actually in some way, shape, or form working for me, can pull you out of
yeah.
that, or like acknowledging the great things that you're doing can pull you out of it. So I do, there is benefit to this. It slows you down and kind of gets you in touch with what do I need right now? Because if we just keep going and going and going, we don't ever stop and ask ourselves, what do we actually need?
No, we just keep cutting things that are important to us
Yeah.
and
And there's no
eventually doing it.
self-regulation. Yeah, no
Yes,
self-regulation going on.
yes,
So,
we all need that.
so, burnout thrives when we're in inertia because it wants us trapped in this cycle of exhaustion and immobility. So when we're emotionally, mentally, physically depleted, we often respond with a freeze action. We're going to avoid doing anything that feels overwhelming, which is exactly what our burnout wants us to not do.
Well, freeze is a fear response, which you talk about all the time. Burnout is often caused by like factors that stem from fear of changing anything. We stick with, the stress that we know instead of jumping for something that could potentially be worse.
Yeah. So what I thought was interesting when I was looking at this topic is that they've done some research into behavioral activation therapy, which was originally designed for depression, to treat depression. And they
Right.
found that inactivity leads to reduced reward seeking and mood, while intentional, even modest activity breaks that cycle by stimulating our brain's reward pathways. And they've done some neuroimaging to show how behavioral activation increases activity in regions of your brain that are tied to reward processing and decreases connectivity within the default mode network, which is associated with rumination and mind wandering.
Mhm. I love a little bit of neuroscience sprinkled
Of
in. So we
course.
went woo-woo, and then Jeff brought us back to the hard science. So,
And so when we're in burnout, right, much like with depression, there's impaired emotional regulation, negative emotion persistence. So even small acts of movement can re-engage our sense of agency and interrupt our paralysis and restore our emotional balance. And,
excellent.
I think we think that we're resting, but there's nothing wrong with resting if we're doing it intentionally. But when we're in that depression or burnout mode, I don't know how intentional we are about resting, right? Like if I'm taking away exercise, yes, I'm resting, but is that really what I'm trying to do? Or am I just trying to like shut down and
Right.
not do anything, which just deepens the trap of the burnout? So
We have to stop demonizing rest.
I know. There is good rest, but there's also like avoidance rest, or
Yes.
avoidance TV watching or
Yeah. Guilty.
yes.
Yeah. I would argue that a lot of these activities, like you just said, are actual like active rest, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, I
Like,
think so.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
even going for a walk, like you're resting from what you're doing.
right.
Like if I'm sitting here checking drawings and I go for a walk, like I'm getting a rest from checking the drawings and I can come back and attack it again when I get back. Whereas if I just try to plow through, like my attention span and level of awareness about what I'm doing slowly degrades until I can barely sit here. So
This is why I don't edit in the afternoons, because my
Right.
ability to quality check anything is totally gone by then.
Yeah. So I guess, people might be thinking, well, how do I pick the best activity for me? So I would say, look at your current emotional, physical state and match that to the type of activity.
Okay.
Start small and let go of your shoulds. Don't should all over yourself and be
I'm putting
intentional.
that on a shirt.
Yes, it's a great one. Stop shooting all over yourself and other people. Something we all like to do. And then be intentional about the activity. And it's more about your intentionality than it is your intensity, which I think would help you with your art drawer cabinet. It sounds very intense when I hear you describe it. And
It is very intense and it shouldn't be. I used to just like keep a drawing pad and some pencils on my coffee table, and then when I felt like doodling, I just doodled. It was very low stakes.
yeah,
What happened to that? Now I'm like, I have to have a full set of rainbow paints so I can do anything my heart desires, and then my heart says that's too much.
yeah.
So I will be intentional and I'll let you know. I'll report back.
All right. Sounds good. And
In the
if you're
meantime,
listening to this, Rachelle and I would love to hear what activity you like to do
yes.
that helps you avoid or pull yourself out of burnout.
Yeah, email us, burnoutbanter@gmail.com.
Anything else you want to add about this topic?
None for me. I was just gonna say that seems like a good transition to a burning question.
All right.
And now it's time for burning questions.
So our burning question today, I didn't grab who this was. Oh, this was from SRC still. We still have unanswered questions from SRC.
Forever and always. I'll
Takes a
ask
while to answer them all
big
when we're
questions.
doing one a month.
Yes. We might need to do a special second episode, like follow
Very
up,
good.
or just knock out the rest of them.
So I have no idea who asked this question, but somebody at SRC did. They said, "Do you have any helpful daily rituals that you do before when starting your workday? Before or slash when starting your workday?"
Helpful daily rituals before or when. I have to have 1 cup of tea with no distractions, no phone, no computer. It is just me and my cup of tea. And wherever I am in the world, I just kind of let my mind wander. I can read a book, but mostly I just kind of sit and mentally prepare for the day. So that is my little it's grounding ritual.
My wife does the same thing with bubbly water, like a 1 can of bubbly water.
Excellent.
Doesn't do anything else until she has finished that can of bubbly water.
Hydrate.
Yeah.
It's very important. It's a healthy thing to set you up for the day.
I always eat breakfast. That's
Good.
a go-to for me. I'm Rochelle, as Rochelle knows, I get grouchy when I don't eat. So
Yes. But I forget to eat, so we're a great pair when we travel because it's the first thing Jeff says is we need to get food. I'm like, oh yeah.
And while I'm eating, I usually will like look at some news. That's about the only time I ever look at the news, which I don't know if
Oh,
that's or helpful or not, but I do it.
I question that one just with the state of the world, but
Mostly I'm just looking for stuff about the Broncos or the Nuggets or
okay.
like the rest of the news. I could take it or leave it. I'm just looking for the stuff I actually care about. All the important things.
That's fair. All
Not
right.
not wars, just football games. That
Okay. Sports nut war.
yeah.
Okay.
Usually for me, feeding the animals always happens before I start work.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely take care of the puppies before
I
I
don't know
take care of
how
me.
helpful that is. But
I will argue that having an animal is really good for burnout. If it were not for Taco, the proposal therapy dog, like there are definitely days where I would just not roll out of bed. But because he needs to go out and because he needs food, like I have to roll out of bed. So he is single-handedly or single-pawedly responsible for my worst burnout days, making sure that I am still human and still functioning. Not
yeah,
to say we don't crawl back into bed and cuddle sometimes, but for the most part, once I'm up and I've taken care of him, I can take care of myself.
Exercise for me is always I usually feel a lot better during the day if I do get up and exercise than if I don't. Now, that being said, I don't do it every day, but
Yeah,
being a ritual, I think that would be a very good one for me because I do feel remarkably better when I do it.
I would agree. My exercise tends to be at the end of the day. I just take all of the stress buildup from the day and then release it in class, which is helpful.
Yeah, those are kind of mine. I had a period of time where I did some meditation before I started work, reading a fun book or reading a book that was self-help. I've kind of burned myself out on self-help books, but even just waking up and reading for like 30 minutes before I start my day was always a good thing.
Yeah, I go through like waves of different ways that I use my me time in the morning. Like I'm going to try and learn a language or I'm going to journal or whatever it is. I never stick with anything for long. I just get too distracted.
Yeah.
But the tea, I always have the tea. So
Yep. I always have breakfast.
there you go. Tea and breakfast is
I
all
don't
you need.
drink tea.
No drinking.
No drinking for me. No
I,
coffee, no tea.
how do you have breakfast without a drink?
I have water, I guess. Well, I have milk in my cereal. I
That's
drink that
different.
at the end.
That's different. It doesn't count. Calling shenanigans there. You gotta hydrate.
I will. Filling up my water is one of my rituals of the day.
Ah, perfect.
Yep.
Hydration is important for all health, mental and physical. So
Yeah. All right. Anything else for that person?
I got nothing else. But I would love to know what rituals that they implement. So if you're listening, and you want to follow up, let us know what your rituals are.
Or what you were hoping your rituals would help you do
Yes,
that maybe you don't aren't doing right now.
that's a good one too. That's a good one.
All right. Well, a friendly reminder to our listeners, if you have a burning question, you can email it to us at burnoutbanter@gmail.com. And please remember to like or subscribe to the podcast on Amazon, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to make sure you never miss an episode. And finally, if your organization is struggling with burnout and stress management, Rachelle and I offer in-house coaching to help your staff get back on track. Again, reach out to us at that email, burnoutbanter@gmail.com, or on LinkedIn for personalized support tailored to your team's needs. And with that, we'll see y'all next month.